Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Cafe Biblos. I believe this is episode 15? Wow, 15.
I think.
Wow.
14 or 15.
That's crazy.
Time flies when you're having fun, as they say.
Yeah. All right, where we last left off, we came to across the question, why did Jesus have to spend 40 days in the wilderness? You got a new mug over there?
Yeah. Cafe Biblos mug.
Oh, that's what this is for.
Yeah.
Ah, neat.
Even though you don't drink coffee.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's true. But now I can put something in it. All right.
Good idea. I think I'll do that too.
That's what they're made for, right?
Yeah, but it's easier to. I guess it's easier to drink from.
Oh yeah. It's always easier.
But I'm cheating because I wanted, since it's kind of warm, I figured I'd have something cold to drink. But the problem is I drank it all. All that's on the bottom now is ice.
Nothing wrong with a little ice.
Oh, okay.
All right. Getting back to why Jesus spent 40 days in the wilderness, let's explore some things to get to that answer. What is significant of the number 40? And why the wilderness? Number 40 significance, we're going to talk about that. It is mentioned 146 times in Scripture. 146 times.
I think there's some significance there.
Yeah, no kidding. Life events in Scriptures referred to as a time of testing. So let's go over the various 40, number 40 in the Scripture here. The flood, 40 days and 40 nights.
Well, my question would be, all right, so 40 days and 40 nights it rained. I can't remember how many days it rained before the ark became buoyant. But 40 days, if it's a time of testing, who's being tested? Noah and his family or the people? Because once the ark was shut, it was shut.
I think when the water started to rise, I think some blood pressure started going up on the people on the ground there.
It did, and then it dropped.
Yeah, significantly.
But yeah, it's a time of testing, and we read about that, the flood in Genesis chapter 7, in verse 12 is when it starts. But go ahead, Eric.
The next one would be Abraham. He bargained with God regarding Sodom and Gomorrah.
I think this one's a cool one. Lord, will you save the city if you find 5 souls so you don't destroy the righteous with the unrighteous? Yeah, I'll do that. But what about 10? Would you go with 10? He's bargaining with God, and he goes all the way. Lord, please don't get mad at me, but what about 40? All right, Abraham, I won't destroy it if I find 40. Okay. Don't be mad at me, Lord.
How about 45?
Yeah. I think he did go there.
He probably did.
Yeah.
Let's see. Moses, 40 years in Egypt, desert, leading Israel. Let's see. Mount Sinai, he went 40 days and nights twice.
Yeah, first time he broke the tablets because the Israelites ticked him off, and he slammed them down, and then he had to go back up.
Lucky he didn't throw it at people.
Well, God told him to. I think he had to cut out the tablets himself this time, and then God wrote on it.
Also, the spies went and checked out the Promised Land for 40 days. In Israel, 40 years, a generation of man wandering in the wilderness till the next generation. Because
they didn't believe Joshua and Caleb. They went with the other 10 spies, and so
they wouldn't stop crying.
Boom, 40 years.
That was their punishment. Judges, 15 judges, 6 served 40 years. Othniel.
Yeah, it's close.
Deborah, Barak, Eli, and Gideon. In Kings, the first 3 served 40 years, another generation. In Prophets, Jonah, Elijah, and Ezekiel, Jonah preached to Nineveh 40 days till its destruction would become of its man's sin.
He wanted it to be destroyed.
He didn't want to go at all.
He watched up on the hillside, and God gave him a nice plant. But then the plant got eaten by a gourd, and Joshua mourned, or not Joshua, but Jonah mourned for that gourd, that plant. He goes, what? He says, you're mourning for that plant, and you're not. Oh, yeah. Jonah wasn't too pleased that Nineveh was spared. Well, Nineveh was was Israel's enemy.
Yeah.
It was the Assyrian Empire. So
he was forced to go.
You have to understand Jonah's, but even though, and that's why he decided to become fish food. Well, God did that because Jonah disobeyed.
God tells you to do something, just do it.
Yeah, don't catch a boat. You'll become fish food.
Elijah fasted 40 days and nights on Mount Horeb.
Which is actually, I think...
You would think I would look this stuff up before we start filming.
I think that was Mount Sinai.
Was Mount Sinai?
I think it was Mount Sinai. That might have been another name for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Ezekiel lay on his side for 40 days to symbolize Judah's sin. And that was found in Ezekiel chapter 4, verse 6. And then we get to Jesus. 40 days and nights in the wilderness prepared him for the 3 years' work he was about to do. He appeared for 40 days after his resurrection. And 40 years after Jesus' prediction, Jerusalem was leveled by the Romans in 70 AD.
And that was Matthew 24, 1 and 2, and also Mark 13, 1 and 2.
The Pentecost was 40 days after Jesus' ascension. And the season of Lent, developed by man as a season for self-denial, related to Jesus in the wilderness. Developed in 325 at First Council of, what's that word, please?
Nicaea.
Nicaea.
So it was introduced in 325 AD, and by 339 it was established as a season, I believe, in the Roman Catholic Church. And so it's just a season of self-denial during representative of the time that Jesus was in the wilderness, 40 days. And of course it's still practiced widely today. So,
are you sure that's all of the
that's all I could find.
Okay.
That's all I could find.
If you can find more, please in the comments section, please let us know which ones we missed.
There are some other numbers that are very interesting in the scriptures. Number 3, number 7, number 6, number 10, and I looked some of these up and I found them quite interesting. But since we're looking at 40 days and nights in the wilderness, it was more appropriate. But why the wilderness? Why did Jesus go to the wilderness? As we had mentioned in our last episode, when Jesus was baptized, there was a lot of people there because of John's preaching. And what happened with Jesus, with his Father, with him being recognized as the Son of God, and God telling him that he was well pleased, and the dove. So Jesus, he was on a spiritual mountaintop, but he had to get away from all that. And so he went to another area that was secluded. And probably the highlands of Judea in the mountains is probably where he went. But why the wilderness? It was a locale for intense experiences. Now, I don't know. I know I've taken high adventure trips as a scout leader, and that experience was in the provincial park in Canada, where we canoed and we, it's like the Voyagers. We canoe, be an open canoe in a lake, and we'd have to, find out which direction we're going and stay on that heading to get to our next campsite. But in Jesus' situation, he just roamed around in the wilderness. He didn't take food with him like we did. He didn't have a canoe. He didn't have a tent. He didn't have cooking utensils. It was just him. And so it was an area of intense experience. We look at Israel in the Exodus. So when they left Egypt, they had all their food, but eventually they ate it all. They drank all their water. So they had need for food and water. And then there's that period of isolation. Even though they were a nation, they were still away from civilization. The only civilization they were exposed to was their community. Boredom. So you're surrounded by wilderness. You can watch nature. There's nothing else to do but walk around. I would imagine you get bored, you get lonely. In Israel's case, how many people like sand? There's always dangers involved. The elements of heat, cold, storms, sandstorms, insects, scorpions, snakes, lions, and anything else that's out in the desert. The fact that the Israelites suffered from hunger and thirst, the fact that Israel was bitten by poisonous snakes, or they call them fiery serpents, that was for punishment, and a lot of them died because of that. But in Jesus' case, he was delivered. He was kept safe for that. It is a time of not only intense experiences, but divine deliverance. When we look at Israel, God provided manna, quail, and water, even though they complained sometimes. All the time. God provided safety and healing. He instructed Moses about the bronze serpent. When they looked on the serpent, if they were bitten, they would live, whereas those who did not would die. God provided protection from their enemies, the same as Jesus. He was protected. It was a time for preparation. Even though during this intense experience, Jesus' ministry he was preparing for it, for his preaching, the miracles that he was going to do, delivering the oppressed or the demon-possessed, defeating death, healing, and performing miracles, as well as preparing his followers. So, why the wilderness? Perfect locale for what had to be done. The purpose. Jesus relied on God's power and protection. It's called faith. And we had asked the question a while back about us having a wilderness experience, and we're going to explore that in our next episode. But Israel had God's presence and guidance. During the day, they were led by a cloud. At night, by a pillar of fire. God provided food and water, again, protection. From the physical and spiritual testing, there's prayer and communication with God. Now, with Israel's case, they went through the priests. But in Jesus' case, he talked with his Father a lot. He spent time. He spent a lot of time in thought and in prayer. He communed almost all the time. David quoted, "Be still and know that I am God." And the fact that Jesus was fully divine and fully human, he knew what that is, but he was experiencing the human side, especially with the physical discomforts. He came to grow closer to his Father as a human being. That leaves another question. How long can the average person go without food?
5 hours. No, that's probably just me.
I don't go very long without food. But we'll leave that with you, and hope to see you next time. If you have any questions or anything, please comment, and have a good day. Bye now.
Bye.